Hey, Tom.
Hey man, what's going on?
Oh man, we were just laughing and we did it this time. We got into
We,
a conversation and we just
we
hit
always
play.
do it, man. We
We
always
just
do
hit
it.
play this time. I mean, we're like, oh crap, we gotta go. We can't.
But I mean, I feel like the second we log on, we should just hit
Oh,
record
I know, really,
while we're
honestly.
finishing up whatever we're doing.
Yeah, enough with the niceties.
Yeah,
Damn it, just get to it.
yeah, man.
So what are you up to, man?
Man, like I got a lot of stuff coming together, and it's like
Love it.
thank God because I'm beat up.
Yeah.
I got my final cover design for my cupping book.
Whoa! If we did
Yeah,
sound effects, we would be putting the applause.
You know what? I have that goddamn thing that I bought off of Temu, that
Yeah.
soundboard. I never installed it. I don't even
Yeah.
know where the hell it is right now.
That's hilarious.
But
Yeah, okay.
I've been trying to get into Medicare, and we needed a medical advisor. We're finally at every time I think I'm at the last step, they're like, "Wait, hold on, one more thing. Can he fill out this paperwork?"
Yeah.
And I was
Right.
like, "God damn it!"
You one more damn thing, motherfucker.
Did I mention I got a Comcast grant?
Wow, how'd you do that? And what is it for?
I
What is
filled
it
out
for?
the application, so it was a small business grant.
Right? No strings
And
attached. Just
yeah, well,
gotta go for
no,
it.
it's like you had to fill out things and say where you're going and what you're doing as a small business, and we do a lot of crazy
Okay.
stuff. We talk about AI and shit here,
Yeah.
but I ended up writing it the first time, and they do it seasonally, like they have different stages.
Cool.
The first time I didn't get selected, and they said, "Hey, you're welcome to. Here's round 2. Try again." So I took my answers from round 1. I plugged them into Google Bard AI,
Sure.
and I said, "Can you make these answers sound more compelling so a judge would choose them?"
That's
and I
amazing.
fucking won.
That's hilarious. Well,
And here's what it is. It's not a huge cash prize. It's $5,000, which no one's going to turn their nose up at.
no.
But they cover my Comcast business bill for a year. They upgrade my equipment, which means they're going to give me some laptops and iPads, which I sorely need at the office.
Sure.
And then they produce a 30-second commercial and
Wow.
air it for 6 months on various networks on Comcast.
That's amazing.
Now, I will say the commercial is your kids could hop on the phone and do a better job with a couple of apps.
I mean, whatever.
But look, man, you got my name, phone number, and photos of my clinic on the internet.
That's all I need.
On actual TV.
Yeah. No, why would you? That's perfect.
Yeah, a bunch of wins this week. It's
Awesome.
been kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, like I said, sound machine clapping insert here.
Like maybe a fanfare.
Yeah, maybe a little
something.
fanfare, bugles. Maybe we should get a bird chirping. I mean, like a little
something zen.
Yeah, something very
like
zen-like.
a gong.
Yeah, that's cool. I dig it.
Yeah, man. What's going on with you?
Nothing, man. We're just getting into busy season. Everybody wants digital stuff, and I tell you what, man. We may have just put into motion a client doing a Ring competitor.
Ooh, that's kind of sexy.
Yeah, and it's it's pretty new. It's brand new. Like we're sort of at the beginning, but literally, Aura is not special. Like that is
Man, my thoughts on it. I like it. I tried out the Ring. I didn't like it on my finger.
Right.
Like they gave you the Sizer, which is essentially a plastic version of the Ring. And I tried it even on my ring finger. I tried it on, and I was like, no, this is clunky.
Yeah.
And then, I know people work out with it, but I don't know about kettlebell and powerlifting and,
Well, mine hasn't worked in 3 months because
wow.
I don't know why but and I can't blame them so much, I guess, but they were kind of douchey about the battery failed. They have access to look at your ring, like the data from it.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're going to look at the logs on your ring and find out what happened. They're like, no, your battery's absolutely shot. The ring's done. Right. And I said, cool. So how are you going to fix it? They're like, well, it's outside the warranty window. And it was outside the warranty by like a month. But even if it was outside, they gave me a $25 or $40 coupon for the Aura 3. And I'm like, okay, look, and here's the real kick in the balls. You can't just
Yeah.
buy the ring anymore. You have to buy the ring with the subscription. So now not only does the ring cost you $300, but now it costs you $6 a month on top of that. And I'm like, you know what, man? I just want you to go fuck yourself right now. And
God damn it, man. Come on, man. But that's the thing. And we talked about Muse, and you said your headband was shot. You didn't want to buy another one.
Sure.
I've never, I've called them and I'm like, hey, I use this daily. They give me discounts. They're much more like, I want you using the product.
So that's what I would have thought, but Aura doesn't have a ton of competition now. I'm not going to say Muse does, because neither one of them really have any competition.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of sitting here going, but we've talked about this on the show before, but you and I certainly talked about it offline. But there's this balance, right? Like, I can get my 23andMe. It costs me what, $199. But then if I want to do anything fun with it, it's like $10 here and $5 here, and $13 a month for this thing, and like, that's cool if that was your only thing. But like, if you're like me and you, then
you're gonna sign up for everything.
I mean, how many fucking $6 subscriptions can I sign up for in a year? And then, like Vessel, I had to cancel it finally, because I'm like, it's coming more than I care to pee on it and wait the 5 minutes to test for this stupid thing. And then I finally got through all the old versions of the test strips, which had like probably a 50% failure rate on testing. So they were in a white package, and then they changed them to a green package with this new formulation, which, to their credit, has been spot on, no failures at all. But they took out vitamin B and cortisol from the test results, like the only two things that I used it for. Like I don't care about hydration and vitamin C.
And honestly, the cortisol is a different story, but the vitamin B is a weird one, because you want to be able to measure how much of the vitamin B is getting into the tissue, right? So I have like epic levels of B12
right
in my bloodstream, so it's going to be in my urine. But because I have two heterozygous motherfucker genes, how much is in the cells? Well, if I didn't take methylated B, probably not much at all.
Right.
So that's a blood test. That's not a
but even
see
that, like, that's another thing, right? Like, so you sent me to that place where you got your methylation test, and I went, uploaded my data, and that test is no longer even an option.
Oh my God, because they give that to me for free.
Yeah. Well, no, I can't even
you can't
order
even pay for it.
No, I can't even pay for it. So I'm like sitting there going, here's the problem, right? Like, it's the same thing. I hate when like Roku or, Sling or any of these like online,
streaming
things.
Yeah.
You just log in one day and everything's like fucked up. It's like, this is on the left now. It used to be on the right. This is at the top. It used to be at the bottom.
They didn't even send an email.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck just happened? And everything's all over the place. And I'm like, as a user experience guy, it drives me bananas, because it's like,
I get it, man.
Because I look at that and I say, look, you know what? I use Vessel very specifically. And I know, look, I've gotten into this fucking crazy ass conversation a million times too. Like, cortisol, you can't really do like a spot check. I know you got it. Ideally, to know anything about the veracity of that, you'd have to test it like 10 times in a day and do it.
And
you know what I mean? Like,
normally they want you to test it like Monday morning. You spit. It's a saliva test, and you got to spit a lot 4 times a day. And you're really just trying to watch this. Like, is it higher in the day, and is it coming down as you land at night?
And then on this one, this isn't like that. And so I recognize
it is
flimsy.
A spot test. Yeah.
Right. And I realize that's flimsy. And to your point, the vitamin B test just tests for the free floating concentration in blood serum or in urine. In urine. And okay, I get that. But at the same time, those are the two things I've been testing forever. So I have like a knowledge in my brain. I know what we should be looking at. And like, to have those things taken away, I'm like, okay, so I can see adding stuff, right? Like, but that test, these guys and their test strips, like, why are you taking away something? Because somewhere out there's somebody who was only using it for that. And I know it's
Yeah.
probably a small amount, but like, come on, like, I don't know. And
Well,
then
you know, I get where you're going here. I also feel like we're trying to quantify everything,
right.
even if we don't have the perfect understanding of what's right for us.
No, sure.
You know, I think that's the whole biohacking movement. It's like, I know all these numbers. Okay, do you know what they mean? If that's a yes, good on you.
Right.
Chances are it's a no.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You know, and then why is that better for you because it's higher than somebody else's?
No, my doctor, a doctor I had years ago was like, tell me what you're going to do if you find out, what the hell were we talking about? Homocysteine levels, you know, like what was going to happen if you had a higher one or a lower one? And I'm just like, well, I don't know a ton about mitochondrial health, but I know that if that is out of balance, then that's where the problem likely adds. So I'm probably going to start a fairly intensive dive down the
what repairs that,
what repairs that and everything versus just bebopping along. And he's like, well, I mean, you're not a doctor. Are you going to really figure it out? I'm like, I at least know where to look. Like, you know what I mean?
I would have thrown it back at him and be like, you are, tell me.
Yeah, you are
a
doctor.
Tell me how I would fix that.
Right. That's funny. Yeah.
This is how that works.
And I ended up getting rid of him as a doctor because I was like, look, I can't have this conversation ever again. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, you know, like I went to an old doctor and like when I say old doctor, not my old doctor, but like an older doctor, you know, you can tell he was probably retiring. And my wife found him when we first moved to Maryland, and I'd given her some herbs, right? Some Chinese herbs. And this company that I gave it to her, and they wrote all the Latin of all, you know, rather than here's a bunch of Chinese words.
Sure.
So here I am going like, you know, you don't have to show him that. I just gave you something to help, you know, you sleep a little bit. And she goes, oh, here this is. And I'm like, why are you showing it to him? You know, I'm in the room with her going like, why did you show that to him? And he's like, this says semen on it. And I said, semen is Latin for seed. Isn't that your language?
Yeah.
Like I was like, you know, and then he goes, and then they did my physical and they called me back to read the results. And, you know, my cholesterol was a little high. Not, oh my God. And he goes, look, I'd give you something, but I don't think you're the type of person that would take it anyway. And I go, well, I could just change my diet. And he goes, that only accounts for 10% of your total cholesterol. And I go, you said I was 10 points over.
Right. So
I'm like, that's 17 points you want me to go down.
Yeah.
Like,
right. Yeah.
I have room, you know?
Right.
And plus I think that's bullshit. And if we're going to have that conversation, I'll pull up studies. So we're not the average people.
No. And I just had this conversation. So here's something interesting. My doctor and my friend's doctor are the same person, right?
Yeah.
And in his physical, and we both have these like 3.5, 4 hour physicals. These are not like your average.
This is concierge.
Yeah, right. These are not normal, you know, physicals. And in his, he said genetics is like 80% of your outcome. And on mine, hold on. And on mine, he said it was like 20%. And I said, that's the number I've always heard. But when I got into it with my friend, his was about colon and colon health, and mine's about heart and heart health.
There's a big difference there.
I think it might, I don't know that the doctor was lying to either of us. I just don't know that we were talking about the same thing.
It is really going to depend on what specifically you're talking about. You know, so when we say genetics is 80%, that's going to be like your likelihood to get something that runs in your family.
Right.
You know, and lifestyle especially with cardiovascular, it definitely has a bigger impact than anything else.
Right. But so I guess if I'm reading you right, are you saying that cardiovascular has a lower genetic likelihood than say
well, look, there's going to be genetic components to all of it, right?
Well, no, I'm not saying it's zero.
You can do more about your cardiovascular health. Right.
You can about your colon health.
Yeah. I mean, you eat fiber, right? But like, you know, you moving more, you know, doing things like smoking or not smoking, you know, making sure that you're taking care of those things those are behaviors that you can absolutely control. Colon cancer, and this could be true for a lot of cancers, but colon cancer is going to, like, if that's going to happen, yes, that's a big genetic component.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so I feel like, because when I've looked up and I've read, I mean, my biological father died early of heart disease, and and I didn't really know him, so I didn't know what his lifestyle was, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's a little hard to answer, but I mean, it's always been on my mind. So as a result, I think over the years, I've spent a little bit more time thinking about the cardiovascular side of things than, say, the colon cancer. Again, I have no fucking idea what anybody did. And all of those numbers have always been like, look, you're under 30%. NIH, I think, said as low as 10. I've read, I think the China study had something in there that came out around like 25, 30. And like, so whatever we're talking about, like it's never been higher than that, but I've never looked up anything else. Like I'm an idiot when it comes to like any of those other things.
I mean, like, but that's the other thing too, right? Like, why
I'm not a woman, so I don't know shit about breast cancer.
Why are you going to look up stuff that you're not worried about in your own, like, oh, I know this is fine.
No, totally.
So you become an expert. And like when we see chronic illness in the clinic, it's like, I'm going to ask them what they've read.
Right.
You know why? Because like this is a weird genetic thing, and even though there's like this bucket of symptoms, what is yours? Like, how does this manifest with you, and what do you know about it?
And I think that's the big thing. That was the big takeaway. I had like a bit of an aha moment talking to him, because I was sitting there going, it's funny, we're so quick to throw out stats that we hear, especially if you hear them recursively, like from different sources, right? So this number that's always south of 30, I keep hearing, but like it didn't like crystallize with me that I have to ask the second question. Okay, so what are we talking about here? Is this a mental health thing? Is it a colon health thing, a lung health thing, a cardiac health thing? Like it could be different for all of those things, right? Like, and it just was never a question that I was asking, I guess,
and that's where it gets really dicey, right? So, I've been following this guy Bio Lane on Instagram, and he'll like even go like, hey, Huberman, you're wrong on this. And Huberman is probably one of the more level-headed influencers out there. And I mean, he's got the credentials to back it up.
Sure.
But he's like, look, you mentioned this study, but you're doing that in bacteria. You're not looking at it in human studies. And if we have some meta-analysis of these human studies, it's almost like the exact opposite is true.
Sure.
So you're not saying anything wrong, but you're not even painting the whole picture. I read something today where he's like, look, you're talking about these seed oils being evil. And, that's the buzzword in that holistic community, right? In this natural health community. And he was like, well, actually, here's a couple of studies that show it's neutral or improves cardiovascular outcomes.
What was their argument? Just some inflammatory response or something from the seed oil?
I don't know, because like, this is the problem with Instagram. Like you see like
the headline,
tweet and then you see like, here's my response, and it's like, I don't follow you on Twitter, or I'm not going on that. That
article
now?
That I was telling you about the scromating, like that. I was
God.
like, I mean,
okay,
what
we're switching gears.
Well,
now.
no. It's funny because like, if you read the article that I read on that, it's basically the same thing. It's like, you've got these data points that when said in isolation are not factually inaccurate.
Well, I mean, it's also, I feel like, and can you fucking tell me, because I didn't even see the articles, where are they getting this contraction for scromiting? What is this?
Well, so the scromiting is sort of like because they say that when you do it, you actually do have a scream-like sound that can be emitted. So it's been coined scromiting because you're screaming and vomiting. And I was like, so there's nothing more Instagram, TikTok than that.
It's so fucking stupid.
It's so fucking
stupid. God, I'm going to smoke so much weed tonight just to prove a point.
So it's like cannabinoid hypermesis syndrome is what it stands for.
And I've heard of that. I've never heard the word scromiting.
So CHS, they say, and here's what's funny about it. I mean, I have been...
And let's spell it out. It is vomiting from excessive cannabis use.
100%. Now, what they're saying is it only happens with people that smoke daily And it only happens with people who have smoked over a year. Now, it doesn't say only, but it says heavily, your chances go sharply up. And I'm like sitting there going, it would be easier for me to count the people who don't fall into the potential folks that could be scrometers.
Oh God! Here's and this is a fucking reefer madness 2023 is what this is.
Yeah, well, it gets more insipid. We'll get to that in a second. But
okay,
yeah.
But like here, I'll give you an example that's pretty funny, right? So there's this thing talked about like geriatric pregnancy and increase in genetic malformations, right? It's something that's been shouted forever.
Sure.
And you go,
and
oh my
what is
God,
that, 40?
Yeah, it doubles over 40.
Right.
Oh yeah, it doubles. That sounds fucking horrible. It goes from 0.5% to 1%.
Right.
And you guys are full of shit. And you're basing research off of France in the 1800s.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, come the fuck on.
Yeah, well, exactly. And then you get a bunch of people that go out there and freak out. Well, and it's funny because this article did say after all that, I mean, look at having the fucking term scrometing in the title was absolutely clickbait. And then then halfway through, they're like, this isn't a reason to not buy weed. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then
honestly, I would be like, oh, cool. Maybe I'll lose some weight too.
Yeah.
Let's like, I
double dip here.
Binge when I smoke. I might as well get rid of it.
Yeah. And then it broke it down. And I'm like, they're like the different phases of scrometing and basically and it's like from an SEO standpoint, whoever wrote this
of scrometing was this BuzzFeed?
No, it's not. GoodRx.
GoodRx is essentially BuzzFeed with a coupon for medical. For prescriptions.
Well, the funny thing about it is like it was expertly written from an SEO bait standpoint. It's like, what is it? What are the phases? I'm like, what are the phases of throwing up? You fucking you feel like you're going to throw up. You actually throw up, and then you get over throwing up.
You know what? When I hook up this soundboard, I'm gonna figure out what a scrometing sound is. We're gonna add that.
But I'm sitting here I'm like an idiot. I read these dumbass articles all day and skip through it. But I was like, I'm just kind of relaxing, reading articles, and I'm like, for a show, and I'm like sitting there going, oh my God, nothing here is different from regular vomiting. What is wrong with me? I've read 3/4 of the article, and I'm still describing just regular vomiting. Don't worry about it. But yeah, like they have no definition of this. They're like, it's been getting hot, more and more in emergency rooms across the country.
And honestly, I read something off of like an actual like medical website about that. And it still was like such a small percentage. I went, oh, that's weird.
I
moved on.
The problem is there's no way to find. I mean, look, it's like one of these like nothing sandwich articles, right? Like, so what at best this tells me some people who have smoked weed in the past ended up
with some regularity,
ended up throwing up incessantly. Doesn't say that maybe an augmented appetite led them to overeat. It doesn't, make it.
There's absolutely nothing around
They could have overdrank that, had too much beer after they got really, really high. I mean, I don't fucking know. Or if you've been smoking weed for a long time, maybe your guard is down about things like drinking booze or eating shitty food. And like, maybe you just sort of, one Twinkie is okay for 6 months, but you start popping 3 or 4 and now you're getting a little, full. I don't know. Or maybe it's an actual medical thing, but the problem is it's not testable, right? Like you're not going to like run out and do a study on this, right? And so like, I mean, you'll never figure out how much of this is true or not. And
what's the dose? Like, it's so goofy.
Yeah. But I mean, they claim that it happened to a third of those people who fall into that cohort. I'm like, no fucking way, bullshit on that. There's no fucking way.
Was there an actual link to an actual study?
Yeah,
or
hold on a second. I pulled it up because I was curious. 33% of people who reported smoking cannabis 20 or more times per month had CHS. Fuck off. Like
what did like?
Hold on.
What was their inclusion criteria here? Were they like, do you smoke weed and throw up?
Yeah.
Like,
do you?
We'll take you. Oh, you do? Great. Let's talk to you about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is the article. And then here is. Now I'm going to go in the prevalence. So actually, they do link to an article from February of this year, and it's on PubMed. And
that might have been the one I read.
Yeah. I think this. I mean, I can at least say this feels more legitimate. It's a real study. I mean, but I'd have to read the whole thing. I didn't link through to see this, but I mean, I know.
This is from Cedars-Sinai?
I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that smoke daily, and I've never heard of this going back 20 plus years. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
all right, this one is a continuing education activity. So this is almost like they wrote it to. Wow, that's weird.
My point here though is I don't know how they would actually test anything like this, and therefore the only reason this article exists is to get people all in a flurry about, some Christian fundamentalist group out there is like latching onto this article as proof positive that the devil has to be purged from your soul upon, getting high for too often.
You know what? Speaking of which, all the artwork that's marijuana and devil based is pretty fucking awesome.
It's yeah, all of it I would put on the wall.
All of it. I got a rolling tray with like.
Wow. Another cool thing going on here right now. That I think I sent you is the the artificial intelligence microscope that Google and the DoD did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. I mean, so this is such a badass technology that and such a low, in my opinion too, it's such a low tech execution of AI that's genius. Like, all they have to do is feed slide data into a generative AI and say, this was cancer and killed the guy in 2 months. This was cancer and killed the guy in 6 months. This was cancer and killed a woman in 6 months. And just keep feeding those slides in with the outcomes.
They'll find stuff. Yeah. They'll find stuff that will never.
And so a couple interesting things in that article that I wanted to kind of get your glance on is one of them, the doctor they interviewed, the primary doctor for the article, him and his partner disagreed on the prognosis. Like, one of them thought it was super aggressive and the other one disagreed.
Mm-hmm.
And so they take the culture, they put the slide under the microscope and find out that the dude who thought it was aggressive was right. And furthermore, the AI spat out why he was right. Like, here's exactly what needs to happen. Like, blah, blah, blah. And he said it's a great arbitrator for coin tosses. And I said, see, that's just such a narrow-minded human thing to say.
And it almost sounds way too arrogant. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's not an arbitrator. It's the replacement for.
It will be more accurate than you, bro.
Right. Well, I keep going back, and I've had this conversation with a bunch of people who also read that article about the AI and the Reddit forum that actually scored higher, not only on diagnosis.
With the doctor patient relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. But also scored higher on empathy test. And I was
that's crazy.
Fucking crazy, right? And I was like, so when these two foofy doctors are talking about it in some nationally covered article, they must have felt real good about themselves until in a year or two when they realized that wasn't an arbitrator. That was
smarter than us.
That was the fucking rightest answer that will ever exist. Yeah. And 5 years from now, I am a fucking editor at best. The guy who gets paid to interpret slides, that guy's not doing that job anymore.
He's gone.
No, there's no, even the AI and the diagnosis over the form were what was it? 75% more accurate than
it was insane. It was insane. And granted, those.
Or no, they did it 75% of the time they were accurate, whereas humans were only 25% accurate.
25% accurate.
Right.
Yeah, that seems more correct. Yeah.
Right. But that's 50. What is that? 50% more? That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. And we're also talking about a Reddit forum where people were listing their complaints and everything. It wasn't even like they
Oh,
were,
yeah.
it's like there wasn't actual data behind it either. There wasn't
Right.
blood tests and things posted.
Which is just crazy to me. And like, that's why I look at like, I mean, telehealth is just in the future is just you basically looking into your camera and then like turning left and right and letting it just look
Yeah.
at your whole face. It'll check out your pulse rate. It'll check out off the camera. It'll check out probably your respiration rate from your
Yeah,
breathing.
I gotta put this Google probe up my ass.
Yeah, right. Or I got to put my Google probe up my ass. Yeah. But I've said that for years. That's the true fucking pinnacle of this mountain, right? You ever seen the Family Guy where they go in the multiverse and they're in the future and Quagmire comes out from banging some chick. He goes, gets a little iPhone watch ding and goes, oh, time for my NyQuil cold flu and AIDS pill. And he pops it because it's like this idea that this is like a hyper specific cocktail and like we'll just have a biosynthesizer at home and it just
it's like, you ever seen it was a sci-fi show, but it was like, you know how right Star Trek was?
Yeah,
It's
right.
like here's all the things Star Trek got right. They were just really ahead of their time.
It wasn't a show,
like,
it was a documentary. Like, yeah, right.
Just so you know, they were writing the future.
Yeah, I mean, we can get real woo-woo and get into like, you know, is the future willed or does it come naturally?
Let's not go there, man. I'm a little too sober for that.
Yeah, we need a lot more like acid or something to kind of have that conversation. But
at least enough weed to violently vomit.
I mean, I need at least a scromitable amount of.
You know what's the craziest thing, man? They're like, here's the remedies. We don't know why it works, but take a hot shower.
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
If I'm in the hospital, if I'm in the ER and I'm vomiting violently and they're like, hit the showers.
Yeah. I mean, dude,
like,
yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Like,
the other thing that I not to go back on the microscope thing, but like one of the other things that was crazy is like that thing only is going to cost $100,000. Like, and so as far as machines go that do crazy fucking shit, $100,000 is nothing.
That is not bad.
That's not like even a number that's meaningful in that world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
and if we look at the companies that are working on it or the administration that's working on it, they spend that in 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, it's
like, that's not even a thought, you know?
But you know what else it got me thinking about though, is look at all the shit that's come out in just 2023.
It is crazy.
Like, I mean, just this year, I mean, we're almost 10 months.
Chat GPT came out
in this year. Yeah. But
and like 10 other ones that are better and do the same. And then niche ones that do thousands of different unique things.
Well, I remember we joked about this one time. We said we have, there's going to be an AI for the bee excrement and migratory patterns. I said, that probably already fucking exists. That's already probably happening.
You could probably just ask the AI. They'll be like, "Oh, I can do that."
Yeah, of course I can do that. Why? What do you mean? Well, of course I can. But like,
we should see if we can get the AI to write a script for our show.
Yeah, I do. We definitely need to move that forward because I want to try it and see what happens. But speaking of shit getting written, like this got me thinking about two things, right? In 2023, there's all this shit that's come out. Like, it's fucking mind blowing. We actually haven't even talked about non-AI based things in 6 months now. Yeah. I mean, like,
it seems like we try and then it's like, no, this
now
is
it all comes back to it,
this.
Right? Yeah. And so two things come up. One, where is, like, what does that look like on a competitive landscape, right? Like, there's so many niche interests that can be augmented by this way of thinking,
technology, yeah,
that anybody who's interested in anything, we are in the time before everybody snatched up all the .coms, right? Like, there is hundreds of millions of ideas.
This is the Silicon Valley boom again,
right? We have hundreds of millions of ideas that have yet to take form because this possibility, this tool, just started to be popularized, right? So do we get excited about a microscope that the DOJ, sorry, it was a DOJ, I think, not DOD. I think I said DOD earlier, but
does
it,
DOJ makes a little bit more. Yeah.
Does it make even headlines to know that Google and the DOJ is making some life-saving but batshit ridiculous microscope, because tomorrow there's going to be another fucking equally crazy thing coming out in a completely fucking different thing, having nothing whatsoever to do with cancer. But it's going to be like just as fundamentally earth-shattering, and it's just going to be another day. Great, we cured cancer on Monday, and we went to Jupiter. We just bypassed Mars. We're like, you know what, Mars is just too easy now. We're just gonna
Now we could be there if we wanted to.
Yeah, we're heading to Jupiter. But then this actually, like, the second part of my question that I think is going to be like a real crazy fourth quarter, because the writer's strike that is going on here. I think, honestly, I think they've got an uphill battle ahead of them. And I feel really bad for them. I'm a creative guy myself, and like, I really don't love what's happening to them. But at the same time, like, I'm also a technologist who and a business owner and somebody who deals
I think
very
that's
closely.
A big part of the issue is, like, if you have an AI generated image of me, is that not mine?
Well, here's the funny thing. You've got people like Sarah.
That's a part of the whole issue. Yeah.
Well, you got Sarah Silverman and what's her name? Amy Schumer suing different people over stealing their AI likeness. Then you've got the WGA on strike, and the SAG-AFTRA and all that. Everyone's on strike.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I think Samuel L. Jackson, was it? Or Samuel L. Jackson or Morgan Freeman, one of the big iconic voice guys, just sold his voice to an AI company where he's going to make more than probably every movie he ever made put together. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, so what's the right question to ask here? Is it, woe is me that the past way of doing things is no longer going to benefit me? And I heard one of the biggest arguments was one of the guys who was a writer on a show, actually a friend of mine kind of thing. He said, when I started 25 years ago, I would write 3 or 4 episodes of a show, and I'd have royalties on those 3 or 4 episodes. And basically, between current gig work and past royalties, I made enough to survive in the world. Right. Yeah. Like I was able to have a family, own a house, own a car, like do the things. Now, that's not the case. Like, if there's no royalties, then there's no way to make a living. And I said, well, that is unfortunate. And that's the part where, human to human, I feel really bad for you. But the real question isn't, can I make a living on writing 3 episodes of a show and then living on, because like, there's probably just as many people who wrote a bunch of things and then never wrote anything again and just lived off of royalties, right?
Yeah.
Both of those are valid statements. All the companies are saying is, we don't sell content anymore the way we used to sell content. We sell content like streaming, like it's not. And like, so your thing could be on a huge library and looked at once a month, twice a year, doesn't matter. I can't give everybody whose content is on our platform royalties. So we're going to change the way we hire people. We want to use things like ChatGPT to give us a head start, lowers our load. We want to hire you as a gig worker, right? Like, that's essentially what we want to do. And so my point here is, all this wasn't to get into a big thing about the writers, but like, that whole industry is, before this case is over, for better or for worse, whatever happens,
fundamentally changed.
Like, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Congress just went in and is starting to like really go through the rocky waters of navigating how to manage control over a healthcare system that's run by AI. Because,
well, and honestly, because the fear is that you're going to have one person controlling the AI, right? And then that person is the one that's mediating all healthcare. And, that's where it gets scary. If we wanted it to be AI, it's AI for the people is what I would say. Don't let somebody own it.
So I guess there, you're right. That is it. But I guess, let me throw this back at you real quick. It, by that law of logic, you'd only have one pharma company. Like, there wouldn't be like 10.
But if that's the case, if it's
Like
look,
Merck and Pfizer are not better or worse than one another. They're just different
but they're also doing a bunch of evil shit and price fixing.
Oh no, they're not great people.
And let's face it, it's a monopoly as it is.
But one person doesn't own that, is what I'm saying, right? Like you don't have one person.
But like it's publicly traded, but it's not it's also not in the public's best interest. It's in making profit as the interest. You know what I'm saying? It's not let's make the best drugs, the safest drugs, the most effective drugs. It's how do we make as much money managing care rather than curing disease.
No, but why is it going to be any different under the auspices of AI? It's going to be the exact same.
But what I'm saying is if it is made a public thing, if it is not owned by one person or one company, and you remove that profit driving and you say, look, we want to optimize drugs to be the safest and most effective, and not just manage symptoms, but work on actually curing things so we don't need the drug intervention anymore.
Right.
You're going to get far different incomes than say, how do we produce this drug as cheap as possible to keep somebody alive as long as so we have a lifetime customer?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like we're not doing those things without AI. We're certainly not likely to do them with AI, right? So like let's just assume that's a horizontal slide in the scheme of things.
I get you. I think it's just I just think the potential for damage is higher as well too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, how
now
so?
somebody can crank out drugs that they know are going to pass FDA approval quicker, right? Should be great for the people. But we're the only ones making it. Now we can make billions because there's no generics for how many years. And now it's going to be live or die type situations for people. It's going to be like, what is Lorenzo's oil or some shit, Well,
it's also going to be, I guess, well, the flip side of that is you're not wrong about any of that. But the flip side of it is back in the day, I told you about this guy I met who used to wear his genome and a USB drive around his neck. Do you remember me telling you that story?
Yeah.
But his whole idea was the pass fail for an FDA drug is 50%. Like it can't hurt more than 50% or some. Well, it's some
it's insane amounts. Yeah, right.
So he said, but do you know how many drugs have like 100% cure rate for 1% of the population, which means it'll never get through FDA. Like it won't even make it to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Because no pharmaceutical company is going to like put resources into that because it doesn't make any financial sense. He goes, my idea is if everybody can put their genome up. Now, keep in mind, this was in like 2006.
This is before
like 2010. Like this was fucking years ago, right? Like this guy was like a crazy billionaire guy who just had a lot of healthcare experience. But my point is that his idea was to say, upload your genome to us, and then we're going to put you with that person. Like if you get this weird lung cancer that only 1% of people, we know the guy who's got the fucking cocktail to set you right. And so I think that, yes, they might go crazy and it'll be years before generic and they might price gouge. But under the current system, it's a death sentence already.
Because no one's making it.
Because no one's making it. So now you've got a company that could make it. And so what if it costs $1 billion? You know what? For the time being anyway, health insurance will probably end up picking up some of that stuff because it will be FDA approved. It just will be shortcutted because of how fast they can do it. Right. So I think that's what you're going to see. We're already seeing this with house insurance. You've seen this, how hard it is to get fucking insurance in places that have hurricanes anymore.
Yeah.
I had a real estate agent client of mine said, you can't get flood insurance in the state of Florida anymore. It's basically like impossible. Like they're like, nope, fuck off. It's just not happening. Now, you know who didn't get that memo? The banks. They're like, I hate to be the breaker of the bad news, but I ain't writing you a mortgage for a house that's going to blow away in a storm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how about hard pass on giving you a mortgage? And that's why she said the all cash buy in Florida is like off the charts. Like the amount of people that are paying all cash. So I'm like sitting there going, what happens in that wave, of destruction? The next big hurricane, just take a side step.
Well, you know what ends up happening? Then FEMA steps in and has to cover everything.
Do they though? I don't think they do at that level.
They probably would not.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
What are you going to do? I mean, it seems like, and maybe this is my own personal axe to grind, but it seems like insurance companies when they're writing policies and they're assessing risk, if they can't insure it, then you shouldn't be able to sell the house.
No, absolutely. I mean, there was a futurist. There's a futurist that I listened to a couple years, but actually the year before COVID. He goes, "At what year is it going to be illegal to sell beachfront property on the beaches we currently have?" like
you move to Wyoming and just wait.
Right. And he said, the thing is, nobody knows. It could last another 100 years. It could last another 10, or it could never be a problem. It could, like if you listen to my friends over in Iceland, when I was over there, they laugh at climate change. They're like, this volcano is about 60 years overdue. When it pops, there's a good chance it sends the whole planet into about a 1 to 2 degree cool down. The last time this happened, Japan had its biggest rice blight in its history. 25,000 people died. In Japan. Just for the people who aren't familiar with the globe, Japan and Iceland are not anywhere near each other.
Not very close. No.
No, they're like not.
Thank you for clarifying that for all the American public school.
They're nowhere near each other, and like it lowered the temperature in Europe by like 1.5 degrees Celsius. Like it was crazy. And so he goes, "I'm not worried about it. I'll be in business for my whole life." He does glacier tours. Some woman on the bus said, "Hey, are you sad that global warming is going to put you out of a job?" He goes, "It's not going to put me out of a job. But to see this volcano, when this shit pops, you're all going to be putting your jackets back on. Don't you worry." and I was like laughing because like he firmly believes it. Now, whether he's right or wrong, but like anything can happen. But anyway, go back to the healthcare to just wrap that up real quick. This is an ungovernable. There was a whole article at the G10 that just happened about like, is the world governable? The world?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, we're still passing laws that like society has already moved past.
Oh yeah. No, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a political thing, but like, you got a weird problem going on with a bunch of these like Republican people, because like the guys who take a real hard line on the abortion issue didn't really win a lot of elections in the midterms. And now everyone who's running now is kind of like, do I lean in on the abortion thing? Because that's like what we're supposed to do. But like, if I do that, like, it's not a very popular idea. Like, it's not a very popular idea. Like, and I can't imagine the ideological conflict that goes on in your head at that point, because
well, it's all bullshit. You have somebody saying they love family values and they're given a hand job at a fucking musical.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, we're not getting political.
No, but Congress has got like, basically it's an unwinnable fight. And just like the writers' strike and just like everything else that we haven't even come up with yet.
Well, here's a funny one, man. I don't know. Did we talk about this, or did I talk to my wife about this? I saw this video of a lawyer, right? He was a music rights lawyer, right? And he dealt with a lot of like, sampling cases and things like that. And I forgot who was interviewing him, but he goes, so what we did was we asked AI to write every conceivable melody. Every conceivable melody. He's like, it took a long time. It took a couple of weeks, but there was, billions and billions of melodies, in that rate of, I don't know how many bars it is that would be considered, copyright infringement. And then, like everyone's like, in the messages looking at this video going, oh shit, please tell me that he didn't trademark billions and billions. He put them into public domain. So that basically means if you write a song and I write a song and they're one beat off or they're one note off or they're almost like exactly identical, you can't come after me for copyright infringement anymore. It's in public domain.
Wow.
Like
that was cool.
That play completely fucked up that entire part of law.
Interesting. So like, are cases basically unwinnable now?
You would try to settle out of court because that like that exists in public domain now.
I would never even take that case anymore if I knew that. I'd be like,
well, that's what he did. He just fucking splashed the pot, if you will. He just threw the chips everywhere. He's like, yeah, go get them.
Well, these authors are all suing now for the Books 3 library in OpenAI, and I'm like, what? Once again, we're asking the wrong fucking questions. Like and they're like, it's critical for the survival of our art form. I said, no, it's critical for the survival of your checking account.
Yeah.
As it currently stands. I respect that, and that is problem A.
Yeah, that's a big problem on its own.
But problem
it's not
B
the technology.
is that problem B is that ship has sailed, bro. Like
Genie doesn't go back in the bottle.
What are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna win this lawsuit. By the time the lawsuit settles,
even if you won this lawsuit,
there'll be 3 million more after.
You're going to lose eventually. You're not going to have the will, the stamina. You know, I had this conversation with a patient earlier today, and it was kind of like, he was like, I'm really worried about AI. It's going to screw things up. And I'm like, look, there's going to be massive changes, no doubt. But there's going to be some really amazing shit that happens.
It's going to be amazing, but it's going to be the next world. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be the next. Arjuna and I were talking about this once, and it was funny. I forget what he said, but he said something about, like, you know, let's say you're in a stadium and like the stadium's on fire and you just made it out with your life. He's like, worrying about losing jobs to AI is like going in and saying, you know, I am really upset. I left my right shoe in the stadium and like, I wish I was dead. It's like, well, wait a minute. You just got your whole family out of a burning stadium. And like, like, and the question you're asking is, where's my shoe? He's like, no, it's but
we're also talking about an intelligence, because that's a great point, right? We're talking about a level of intelligence and processing of thought that will solve problems as quickly, if not quicker, than they happen.
Well, no, exactly. And so that's why I said, like, all we're doing is mourning a stupidity of giving something up, which is not unintelligible. I get that. But like, think about just the health stuff that we've been talking about lately, right? Like, we objectively, and I don't know if you saw the article about the new Sinclair, not Lou, but him, Peter Diamandis had a like an interview on aging is now optional. It's just a build off of lifespan. But dude, but like, look at the Venn diagram that's happening. He's not crazy, right? Like, I mean, he's arrogant and just a money grubbing fucking like advertiser at this point, for sure. I mean, he for his lab, he is an ultimate pimp for his lab. He's just,
but like, look, this is publish or perish, and in a very unique way, because it's normally journals, it's not a book. But
well, and he's on every podcast.
People are going to throw money at his lab.
Right. So he doesn't need to be published to get funded now. Like, he just needs people are just giving him money.
But that's he did one big one instead of a bunch of little studies is basically what this is.
Well, but what I'm saying is, like, when you Venn diagram a microscope that's curing cancer, you got him with his fucking aging nonsense. You got AI looking down into everything.
It's not crazy talk.
Like, it's not, nothing is science fiction. And that's the point. Like, and I think that if you can get over like the science fiction-y part of all this and just like be like, all right, let's agree. It's all fucking awesome. Now let's just start talking about these ideas. Let's separate the wheat from the chaff and let's find out, like, what are these good? Because all of them can happen. What was it? You can do, what'd you say? You can do everything.
You just can't do it. You can do it all at once. Yeah.
You just can't do it all at once. Yeah. That's where we're at. Like, and I'm like, so I don't know. I think it's exciting to be here and watching this happen, because it's just going to keep, like, we have a front row seat for the start.
It is so crazy, because, you know, half the time I fluctuate between the world's on fire. What's the fucking point? And oh my God.
Sure.
I cannot pick a better time to be alive.
Well, and we got AI to help us build the fire extinguisher now. We didn't have that before. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like,
yeah.
Even though I think it is funny, all the AIs keep coming back. The cure to environmental crisis is maglev trains.
Like trains. Yeah, high-speed trains.
High-speed trains.
High-speed free public transportation.
That's the answer to everything. Like, literally.
You want to fix it?
Just
you start building railroads.
Yeah, maglev everywhere you go. Yes. That's it. So cool, man. All right, what are you getting into next?
Oh man, I'm planning. I have been asked by most of my staff to start a study group and kind of train them in some stuff that isn't that popular in the States, but it was given to me by my mentor, and I think it's really informed my clinic. or at least my personal practice, and now they want it. So I'm more than honored to carry that tradition on for my mentor, and we'll be starting rolling that out in the next month or so. What are you up to, man?
That's cool. I am actually in the middle of a data. Well, this client with this Aura like ring, they got a little different thing going on, but it's like the first project that I'm going to be able to kind of be sort of balls deep in like
really hands on,
like really awesome. Hands on. Yeah. So it's very cool. I actually hope to be able to do more of this kind of work, because I think that's just it. Like my total worldview on this AI thing is like, this is like my and people like me's time to really fucking shine. Like we're pulling the button down to open up the Superman logo underneath, because the most creative person in the room wins at whatever they're trying to do right now. And I don't mean it in a binary like win or lose, but like you make so many more gains, I think, if you're creative in this ecosystem than if you're just lucky. You know, like AI does sort of remove the luck factor, because without a truly solid idea, it doesn't give you tremendous results, right? Like you have to be good at like foundational questioning and like editing in real time, because you're usually having like a conversation, right? Like, so it's basically like, I know every answer to every question ever, but you have to ask me first. You know, like it's like,
and you have to phrase it the right way too. This is still the like, it's going to give you the answer as the question was written, not as maybe it was intended.
And we'll get to a Jarvis like moment where like this is a lot more refined for sure.
Conversational.
Yeah. Where it's like, and it's like in the room and it's just everywhere in your house. Like no matter where you go, you can have an open dialogue with like your own personal AI. Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be exciting. And it's project one for me in this particular arena. So
I would pitch a cock ring.
Nice.
Pitch it as a wearable.
I do like that. You know, I wonder, there's got to be some kind of like binaural or, you know, like neural connection. Like if you had a Muse headband connected
you
to
will
a
sell
cock
it
ring.
you will sell it to all the biohacking community immediately.
Oh my God. What would that be?
They'll be all in. They'll be all in.
Yeah. What is the therapy? I wonder. We got to think about this.
It doesn't even matter. You could just make shit up. It doesn't even matter. It's like it's something with your mitochondria.
Yeah, that's a mitochondrial penis.
Bigger.
Yeah, mitochondrial penis cannabinoid.
Is your sperm healthy?
Yeah,
this will make it.
Yeah, this will make it. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Cool, man. Well, see you next time.
All right, take it
Later,
easy.
Man.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.